Welcome to another episode of VGN Weekly. Members of the Virtual Grip crew will recap the previous week's races and bring us one-on-one interviews with racers, league owners, and commentators, as well as others from within the sim racing community. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. Thanks for tuning in today. Now let's go find some grip.
Sunday, October 12th, 2025, the OBRL Yesteryear Cup Series stormed into Las Vegas Motor Speedway for round 33 of Season 8. Sean Foltz took the win and secured one of 4 spots in the finals, coming up on November 2nd from Phoenix Raceway. Yesteryear Racing's 1966 Tour Modified Series rolled into Long Pond, Pennsylvania on October 14th for their Race of Champions event at Pocono Raceway. After a long and caution-filled race, Tom Ogle snagged his 4th win of Season 2. And the Bootleg Racing League's Late Model Invitational Series held Race 2 of their 3-race West Coast swing at Irwindale Speedway on Saturday night, October 18th. At the end of 101 laps of very exciting door-to-door action, James Lowe secured his 3rd win in a row for Season 32. Now let's turn it over to John Hine and this week's guest, Eric Stout.
And welcome back here. And we've got Eric Stout, and we should call him the champ, Eric Stout here, the current champion of the Red Light Racing League season here. And it just wrapped up. So he's just crowned the champion. So Eric, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John. Nice to be chatting with you again, especially under these circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, hey, pretty good circumstances here, must I say. And then you know, your season, you started out, pretty good week 1, week 2, and then I think you ran into some adversity early on. I don't know if it was race 4, where you kind of had some trouble, finished pretty much down the running order. That early in the season, do you kind of feel like that was a mulligan, or did you think, oh, good Lord, here we go. This is going to be impossible to overcome or hard to overcome? What were your thoughts when you got to that point?
I wasn't too concerned with the result, sort of in a vacuum, or worried about having to overcome it. The concern is then, yes, because we get the drop week, if you use that mulligan too early and then you run into 1 or 2 weeks later in the season that are really issues. At that time, and he continued to perform well. Ethan, new to the league, not new to Red Light. We raced together on Monday nights in the Scrambler series. Obviously really talented, always consistent and has good speed, but was new to this type of car and type of racing. My assumption was that the first portion of the season he'd sort of be figuring it out and then would get stronger as the season went on. But he also ran into a couple unlucky weeks, so that helped my case. But that's really the concern there. Like week 4, if you have a clunker, is do you have another one week 7, 10, 14 that could really set you back and then be difficult to come back from?
Well, the reason why that my first question, kind of your downer point, I guess maybe your season, because we were just talking right before we came on here about adversity and bouncing back. Well, you had that, what you said, clunker, and the very next week you started what turned out to be a quite the role here. You started out when you got to Kevin Harvick's Kern Raceway, off of that dud. First of all, you starting that night, what was your thoughts when you started that race? I mean, was it to just get back on track, or was it, hey, I have to win now? Was there a sense of urgency at that point?
No sense of urgency, although coming off the 9-win season, the previous season, I was scratching my head a little bit how I had avoided victory lane for 4 or 5 weeks.
First 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Your brother got to victory lane before you
did.
Not that I want to rub salt,
Yeah.
but maybe a bragging point. But
no, honestly, I'm always sort of balancing the competitive side and the admin side, and I think for the league as a whole, seeing different guys win week after week is a good thing for the league, and I think that keeps people interested. It makes for a better broadcast, and it just keeps, I think, the entirety of the field engaged, especially the guys that are up top that are also competing for a championship. So I'm happy. Like I always say, like I want to win, right? But I don't need to necessarily win every single week or demolish the field. That's not really my objective. My objective is to go out each week and have just the best finish that I can get that week. Just maximize the week or optimize the week, and that sometimes is fifth, sometimes that's going to be 12th, depending on how the race goes. But getting back to your question about Kern, there's a few races on the schedule that I definitely had circled. Kern was one of those. I think I led
so that makes it a little
Yeah.
easier to bounce back when you go somewhere you like the following week.
Yeah, I was really excited. I was really excited for that. I think the inclusion of the tour modified is an interesting wrinkle for the series, in that it's a more difficult car to drive,
Yes.
and I think it really kind of values being able to save tires, manage your pace. You have to manage the race a lot more than you do in the SK modified, but the tracks that we go to aren't necessarily more difficult tracks or tracks that sort of take more skill. Like we're not racing it at Stafford the way we're racing the SK modified. We're going to tracks that are a little bit bigger that we can just kind of rip around and mix it up. And I think those are fun, like wild card races, because any number of drivers could win that week, depending on how the race shakes out because of that dynamic. So I think those make for really fun races. But Kern is a little bit more consistent with like a short track with this, the kind that we would typically go to in the series. So I felt like that was one of my favorite combos, and something that really matched up well for me, and was a good chance to win. But yes, like coming off of the I think it was the Thompson race. I had run second the entire race. There was there was the green white checker that turned into a total fiasco.
So that was even more of a kick in the gut.
Yeah, I actually think we had like less than 5 laps to go, and there was a late caution, which, I mean, if you can watch a cup race on Sundays and they could run 200 green flag laps incident free, and then it gets to winning time, and things can go crazy. So you really just don't know what you're going to get. And that wasn't a situation that I created for myself. It was just on the restart, and guys got kind of stacked up behind us, and it turned some cars. Patrick actually almost got caught up in that as well, and it just completely changes the outcome of the night. So I think looking at the season as a whole, after that, I mean, I really didn't put a wheel out of place, I don't think, except for Watkins Glen. That was another one that was circled on the calendar. I had won that race by a pretty significant margin last season. Won the pole for this season's race as well. But frankly, I wasn't as prepared for that race as I would have liked to have been. Some off the track stuff happening with work had me a little distracted, and I was actually, I remember like thinking about work as I was making my laps early in that race, and was definitely distracted and ended up spinning on my own going into turn one. I just overcooked it a little bit and turned, at worst, a second place finish, because Luke was starting to catch me a little bit there about 10 laps in. So I turned, what was at worst going to be a second or third place finish into, I think I made it back up to fourth. So that was a moment, thinking back, I really had a chance to sort of stretch the points lead. I think I could have stretched it by something like 20 points that night. And I still gained, because I still kind of beat Ethan on the night, but it wasn't like the best night that it could have been.
Well, when let's back up to Kern there, and you won that race. Obviously, okay, now you've got that first win of the season behind you. I don't know for you, but I know that when a new season starts, I always fret: am I going to win a race? Am I not going to win a race? depending on what kind of series it is, when I run dirt, that's normally I will win a few races, but every season I'm always paranoid that I'm not going to win. So you talked about going about 4 weeks in, and it surprised you that you hadn't won, but then you do win, and guess what? You kept winning. You won the next two. So was Kern more of a catalyst for your season? You felt like your season started there, or did all of a sudden just your confidence all just come back all at once? I mean, what do you attribute the next those 3 wins in a row that happened, at that point?
So I'm just referencing the schedule so I can remember exactly what had
Yeah,
happened.
it was the Lanier. You went to Kern, then the Lanier, and then to Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, so those are actually tracks that I've won at before. And as the last like few seasons have gone, I've I've ended up winning at a lot of these tracks, as that kind of tends to happen. But Lanier is one of my favorite tracks. Myrtle Beach is also one of my favorite tracks. It's it's a weird thing to kind of gauge. Like Lanier, I went into that week definitely feeling like I was going to be the guy to beat. I had dominated the race the previous season. Felt really solid about my qualifying effort, and prep, and my strategy, my approach for that, because it will vary week to week depending on the track conditions, the track type, the car. Like sometimes that first lap, that's the heater, and I can figure out that's going to be the money lap. Sometimes it's a traditional 2 laps, and then sometimes the first lap is going to be a throwaway, and I'm putting all my eggs in that second lap basket. So going to those tracks, I was already confident, and actually, like, if you look at like obviously Phoenix, I led a bunch of laps. Oxford, I think I was running third, and I cost myself there. I pitted when I probably didn't need to pit, and I got marred back in traffic. I also had a penalty that I overcame, or that I had to overcome, and then I ended up getting caught in a wreck. And that was really like my own doing. And actually, from that point forward, I kind of said to myself, I'm not going to pit. If I'm out front, I'm going to make them go around me or through me. I'm not going to voluntarily give up the track position, which I ended up not taking my own advice at New Hampshire, and it probably cost me the win. But I felt like in that situation, and I know I'm skipping around a little bit, but with the New Hampshire race, I led most of that race. I felt like if I pitted, everyone else was going to stay out, and if I didn't pit, everyone was going to come take tires, and I'd be a sitting duck. But going back to Lanier and Myrtle Beach, both just tracks I really enjoy. I think they're great combos.
And we're going to
the
bring
SK
in
modified.
Eric Stout.
And
Eric, welcome
have,
to the show here.
Typically
And
had
should I call you the
pretty good speed there. And so that was a good
champ?
run. Slinger was a wild card, not a track that I particularly like.
This season
can create a lot of chaos. I mean, there could be a wreck on the other side of the track, and then you're on top of it in an instant.
That track on one hand is really fun, but on the other hand, it's really scary because it's not forgiving if you make the slightest mistake, or like you said, the closing.
It's
speed.
Not at all.
You could be 3 and 4, something happened in 1 and 2, and you still get involved.
Yeah, and that actually almost happened to us. I think I was running third in the race at the time, and we came through turns 1 and 2, and there was a pileup of cars that was just getting cleaned up from the caution. And I think I actually cut down through the infield to avoid it, as did some other drivers. So there's certain races going into that where it's like you could have good speed, or you don't necessarily know where your speed is at. There were several times where I was like 8th on the speed chart in practice, but was able to qualify well. And that really, I think, has kind of been the central theme to my success is I tend to have that really good one lap speed, the sort of hot lap hero, if you will. And being able to qualify well. Langley is probably the best example of that. I was terrible in practice, not comfortable with the setup, but was able to qualify second. And then from there, I just really managed the race. I ended up leading some laps because Chad had a little bobble on the first or second lap. So I was out front, but that was a night where I was like, I could be first or I could be last. I kind of don't know what I'm going to get, and
Well,
was able to
real
turn out a
quick
good
about
finish.
Langley, since you mentioned Langley, how on earth did you guys let Josh win that race?
He ran a great race. He ran a great race. You got to
I
give
guess
it.
so. So your answer is a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and again. Okay, Jack. I saw his
Yeah,
name on the when I saw his name up there. I was like, wow, all right, he got one. So,
yeah.
but
He ran a terrific race. He actually, if you look at his season, um, he improved a lot from last season. We started working together more as teammates, like week over week. Um, and I'd like to think that effort together contributed to his success. But he really just I think he showed the best patience throughout the season and took the good results. He had a really rough stretch. I think he got knocked down to ninth at one point in the points, and over the last 3 or 4 weeks was able to get back up to fifth in points, which personally I think with the depth of the field that we have, because I think for the league it's the deepest and strongest field that we've ever had. There's probably some guys that have raced in the league like Max or Dalton or Brian Hacker that are like head and shoulders probably above where maybe I'm at right now, or Jeff or Ethan. They're incredibly talented, but the I think the deep or the depth of the field that we have, there's legitimately 6, 8, 10 guys that could win on any night.
so you reel off those 3 wins. You put some solid races together, pick up another couple wins. At what point in the season do you start points racing? Or does your strategy not change? You just line up. You're gonna, go try to win races and let the chips fall where they may. I mean, what point do you start eyeing, should I say, that championship?
So I definitely I go into into week one with the same mentality. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna race as hard and as clean as I can to try to win each week. But I know that's not realistic. I'm not going to win each week. The goal is really just to optimize the week, whether that's second, first, fifth, 10th, get the best finish that I can get week after week. And I just kind of believe, I guess, that over the course of 18 weeks, in this case 19 races, it was supposed to be 20, but I messed up the session at Slinger. But over the course of that
It's a rain out.
those 18 weeks, I think that I will be able to be more consistent than anybody else in the field, and just over time, sort of, I guess, slowly suffocate them.
Well,
That's my approach.
so I mean, you approach each race with the same mindset. How about on track? Do you start making? Does that you always talk about risk reward? When you're racing, is the juice worth the squeeze here to put
Yep.
yourself or maybe somebody else in a bad spot to try to pick up this one spot? So is there a point where you know that calculation, at least for the risk reward, changes a little bit for you anywhere like down the stretch, whether it be, after Langley? I mean, the last 3 races were like Bristol, Stafford, New Smyrna, and one of those races is, does that calculation behind the wheel change?
No. I'm just gonna try to race smart, not fall victim to race brain at any point during a race, and
Race brain. I'm stealing that, by the way. I like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I've got a chronic condition, so now I've finally been diagnosed. So thank you.
I know how it goes. Like you feel like you're faster than whoever is in front of you, and your eyeballs get real big, and it's just really just trying to pick and choose the best spots to make the
Yeah.
move. Again, like I'm happy to take a fourth if that's what's available to me that night. If there's an opportunity to make a move because someone made a mistake, or I'm legitimately, quicker than someone, I'll go for the pass. But I just think over the long sample size, uh, costing yourself a fourth, going for third and finishing ninth, is not gonna pay any dividends. So I try to just be patient, but also again going back to it all goes back to qualifying, I guess, really for me. I'm pretty consistently able to qualify up front. I don't know how many poles I had this year, but it was a handful. And I think more often than not, like if I set fast time, I'm typically coming out of there with a win. So that's really the mindset, is be as good as I can possibly be in qualifying, and then just race smart and try not to create any problems for myself. Because as we've seen, whether you're leading or you're in fifth or you could be running last, issues can find you. So try not to create your own issues, and kind of keep your fingers crossed that you don't get involved in anybody else's business.
Do you at like in the last, like I said, going back to probably the last three races of the season, and by the way, your brother won 2 out of 3, but we'll get to that in a minute. But is there any point where you feel pressure? I mean, I can't. Not so much I've got to get the best finish, but I got to avoid trouble, because
Yeah, so
that's a big part of winning these championships. Sometimes you got to have a little luck come your way, and
yeah,
and not be
definitely.
bad luck.
So we kind of touched on this middle stretch of the season, but I think that's really where I don't know if I would necessarily call it pressure, but I was definitely very aware of the point situation, because it's like, to me, it's like death by paper cuts. Like, I just want to sort of incrementally creep out 2, 4, 6 points each week. And then, over the course of the 18 weeks, you're like, oh, you've got 100 and something point lead. And I think I had the championship locked up, I want to say, after Langley, as long as I showed up, or something to that effect. But so it had the Myrtle Beach win. The Slinger race, I had very low expectations for. Ended up running really well. Unfortunately, got turned in the middle of that race by Jeff, who had come off of turn 4 and whacked the wall. Turned me. I was able to recover. I think I restarted in like 7th or 8th, and was able to recover. Actually had a shot to win the race. Chad was far and away the best car that night, so the most deserving guy won that night, and was happy for him. But I was also happy to take home a second in a week that could have gone really, really poorly. Had the self-inflicted wound at Watkins Glen, and then I have a disaster at Hickory, where Patrick and Bradley got together in front of me, stacked the outside lineup. My car got junked. I ended up almost costing Jeff Aho the win, because my car was just trying to kill me basically for the rest of the night. I held it together until 2 laps to go, and then I ended up self-spinning and just parked it off of turn 4. So that was a moment where I was like, uh-oh, like this could get really interesting. But bounced back with the win at Irwindale, dominated that race, had a great run at New Hampshire. And then really it was like I think the next 2 weeks were the most critical weeks of the season. We had the doubleheader at Five Flags, which is a total wild card race. I actually I ran, I think, in the top 3. Most of the first race, ended up having an issue. And then the second race, you start in the back of the pack. I think I ran 10th to 12th that entire 50 laps up until about 12 to go. There was a couple accidents. I got lucky that the Soup talks about this, the luck of the restart draw. I was on the inside lane, so I ended up working my way back up to 4th, I think, in that second race. So that was a night that Ethan had run really well in both races. I think at one point there was sort of an opportunity for him there to have made up something like 20 points, and he ended up only making up like 1. So at that point, I felt like, all right, I got through probably the highest risk moment of the season with that doubleheader, and then put together what I thought was probably my best race of the season at USA. That was another one that I had circled. I've had some really strong runs there in the past, and ended up, I think, in both instances, getting involved in an incident as the leader with the outside car getting into my right rear, which basically ruined both of those races. That happened several seasons ago. And then the same thing happened last season. I think Ken and I got tangled on a restart. So that was one that I had circled. I wanted a little bit of redemption there. Put together, I thought it was really like a championship level performance. Um, Traded the lead with Ken early on, held off Luke, held off Fred towards the end there. Again, the late cautions, creating havoc, put me in a spot where I really didn't want to be restarting against anybody. Not an issue that I created, but as the leader, then you have to defend. And I was able to defend and hold on for the win. To me, that was really like kind of slamming the phone down. Like, I felt like at that point it was over. All I had to do was survive, the next few weeks. But still had some good tracks, good combos. And at that point, sort of setting a little goal for myself was just to continue the top 5 streak. And I think I ended up walking away with a second, a third, a win, and then 4th at New Smyrna. And I think I had 15 top 5s out of the 17 counted races or something like that this season. So
along with 6 wins. So I mean, it was
yeah.
a very model of consistency there through the season.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? That was enough for you to bring home that championship. And, one of the benefits through the year, we've touched on this a couple of times, is it's kind of cool. You get to race your brother.
Yeah.
And, like I said, he won 2 out of the last 3. So he's got bragging rights, into the off season, to the next season. You might have that championship, but, I'm sure now in his mind, he thinks, yeah, I can run with you. So racing your brother, I guess, that's got to be cool. Do you race him differently? Because I know I've got a really good friend here in iRacing that I will race him harder. He'll race me harder. There's that, we could finish 12th. We don't care as long as we beat the other guy. So, what is it like? What's that dynamic like? Do you guys, have to, give each other crap or anything like that? Or is it more of a friendly haha? So what's the dynamic?
I would say it's just in general, I approach these sort of rivalries with camaraderie first. So I'm happy to get beat, I guess you could say, as long as it's sort of like fair and clean, right? If I get beat straight up, no hard feelings. That won't bother me. I have teammates, AJ from previous seasons. This season was, with Patrick and Josh both getting wins. We would talk during the race, either through the voice channel, like the radio chat, or on Discord. And I was encouraging them along the way. Josh and I were having dialogue during his win at Langley. I was keeping him, posted on sort of what was happening behind him to try to help him bring that home. And Patrick and I do the same thing for one another. I do think, I was saying off the, before we got started, I think Patrick was probably a little deferential this season, because he wasn't really in the points running for a championship. I think that dynamic will probably flip a little bit, or get disrupted a little bit next season as he's running full time and we're both contending for a championship. I'm going to support him. I'm going to help him try to get better. And that sort of iron sharpens iron mentality, I think will just push us both to sort of elevate our game. So I've said a few different times in post-race interviews and when talking about Patrick, that when I first came into Red Light, I was struggling just to finish races. I was happy to finish in the top 10. And so when he started this season, I really just said, the goal should just be to run all the laps. If you can complete all the laps in every race that you enter, I think that's a win. And he ended up doing fantastic. He had much better speed than I expected. He was a lot more consistent than I originally anticipated. And he did a really good job managing his expectations and managing his emotions when he ran into trouble on the track, and trying to, bounce back and, not freaking out and, kind of like having not saying that he does this, but it's easy when you're sitting in the chair to sort of,
Get
let
frustrated.
let your emotions get the better of you and react and start compounding, those errors or those mistakes.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for next season to have him at sort of full strength. My teammate AJ will also be back. We had some terrific battles 2 seasons ago. And he also helped push me to the championship that season. So I think between the four of us, with Josh and AJ and Patrick, I think we'll have a terrific team. I know that our preparation will be terrific, and I'm certain that we're going to bring great speed each week. But I still want to beat them. I still want the championship.
Yeah. Just real quick, who's the older sibling?
I am. So we have an older brother, Mitch,
Okay.
who is a PGA golf professional out in Southern California.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's a really interesting and cool guy. Has done a lot of amazing stuff in his life.
Well, next time I go to Top Golf, I need his number.
Yeah, so he's out in Southern California. He's 6 years older than I am, and then I am 13 years older than Patrick. So I'm back in Massachusetts after a stint in the Washington D.C. area, and Pat is actually down in Virginia in Blacksburg. Patrick was in the Air Force, was stationed in Omaha, and when he got out, he took a job with a company down there in Virginia. So we stay in touch, virtually. The iRacing has been honestly really great. This has been like so much fun because before Patrick started racing, he would just spot for me.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd be in the car, or I'd say he was like on the pit box. So he'd help with the, pit stops and keeping me updated on, who was pitting and what was going on with the race. I send the YouTube link out to our family every week. So we have a group of about 8 people between my mom, my dad, my stepmom, my aunt, and her husband in Texas, and some of my friends that all tune in each week to watch. So it's really fun. We race, and then we text about it a little bit afterwards, and then talk about what's upcoming next week. And there's definitely some good banter between me and Patrick, but it all comes from really like being brothers and loving one another and wanting to push one another and being supportive, but still really competitive.
That is very, very cool. Very, very cool. You mentioned, you're going to have teammates back, and I always find this is another, we talk about connections and stuff like that, be able to, keep the family closer and stuff like that. But that is one of the neater things I think that iRacing does. And I've got, I'm a member of a team and stuff like that. And you talked about team preparation. Walk me through kind of what that looks like. First of all, is Red Lights your only racing league that you guys do? And if it is, what does your prep look like?
Yeah, the Thursday night series is really the only thing that I do full time. I used to try to do official racing, and it's just I don't know. It's not as enjoyable. It's too unpredictable, and
Yes.
That can lead to some of those like boil over emotion moments because you
open
don't
racing,
know who
yeah, and everybody's out for themselves in those things.
Yeah,
You don't have to race the guy next week.
Right. It's just chaotic, and people will just do really stupid things, and sometimes you do stupid things. So I race this league, and then I sign up. I usually end up only running like 4 or 5 weeks though of the Red Light Monday series. I think moving into the new year, I'm going to try to sort of buckle down and focus on that. That's stock cars, the trucks, the Cup, ARC car, and Xfinity car. Obviously, it's a different dynamic. The preparation, honestly, for those races is a lot more grueling, just because of the time. The laps are like for Thursday night. An average lap is probably 15 or 16 seconds. Most weeks. You could, if you're running Pocono, you could sit down for 45 minutes and only get like 12 laps in, depending like if you're crashing or whatever it is that you're trying to do in that particular session. So to prep for Red Light on Thursdays, usually we test the setup for the following week, like the night before race night. So you basically, like, you have a week in advance. You have the setup. We usually sort of tinker on our own, like Saturday, Sunday, depending on on what the schedule is. I use Garage 61 for telemetry, which I think we talked about the last time I did the podcast. So we use Garage 61. So, like, usually I'll text or message after I do my first sort of, like, mini practice sessions, 50 or so laps. And that sort of sets the baseline. I'll text the guys and just say, hey, got some laps down, go take a look, so they can get keyed in on, what a good target lap time is, what am I doing in the car from a telemetry standpoint with the inputs. And then we usually will have a group practice on Tuesday nights, just for an hour. And at that point, we're, like, really just starting to hone in on speed, figuring out, like, is there long run work that we need to do, or if it's the SK, you really don't have to be too concerned about long run. It's really difficult to burn the tires off the SK modified. Something else that we'll do that I think is really beneficial and important is we simulate starts and restarts and figure out, like, which lane is going to be dominant. And some of it's experience now, having been to a lot of these tracks multiple times. I know, like, at New Smyrna, typically the top is going to be better on the restart as the leader, because you get the better run out of turn two. But we'll simulate that stuff. We'll play around with those things. Fresh tires, old tires, kind of mix it up like that. And then Thursday night, like race night, by that point, basically all the work is done. We'll set up a separate session outside of the regular, like, hosted practice, and basically just do qualifying runs. And you're just trying to get honed in, like, find that, those last couple hundreds, or just finding the consistency of, like, what is your best lap or optimal lap, and kind of chasing that over and over and try to just repeat it. And that's probably the biggest thing for me personally, to feel prepared, is knowing that I can get into the qualifying session with a target, lap time that I think is going to be really competitive, and be able to, be within a couple hundredths of that, one way or the other. I don't want to be doing qualifying practice and qualifying runs where I'm a tenth or a tenth and a half off each time. That's too unpredictable for me. So that's where, like, I'll really spend most of my time working. So honestly, I would say probably 75 to 80% of the time on track, like getting ready for a race, I'm focused on qualifying. And then long run, I some of it's experience, and some of it's just feeling it out in the race. Like we talked about earlier with the SK mod and the difference with the tour modified. I know that if my best lap in the tour mod is say a 20.2 at Kern, I'm just making up a time. I know that my race pace has to be back down probably 2 to 3 tenths to be able to manage my tires effectively. SK modified, you can just basically, like, go for it and send it for the 100 laps. That's why I like the extended length races that we do with the 150 lappers to kind of bookend the season, because it makes tires more important. It brings a little strategy into play, and I think it can switch up that dynamic at the front of the field.
Yeah, that's another aspect of this league that I find very interesting, is the fact that you are using both modifieds throughout the season. Tell me some of the challenges. Let's just say you run the tour mod this week, you're headed back to the SK the next week. Because I mean, having driven both myself, I mean, some of the big differences is, one of the major differences is braking points. That changes quite a bit between the two cars. So what challenges, do you face, or what do you think is hard about switching back and forth?
I think coming from the SK going to the tour modified, it's definitely remembering and feeling out that thing is a caged animal. There's so much horsepower with a really light car. It's easy to let that kind of get away from you. So yeah, sort of getting comfortable with whatever that track combo is for that week, and then remembering that you know you're going to have to manage your race pace a lot more closely and a lot more efficiently in the tour mod than the SK mod. That's like the biggest switch going that way. Going back to the SK modified, at times it almost feels to me like you got to remember how hard you could drive that car, because you can really get after it. And if you, I think, sort of take the same the same feel from the previous week with the tour modified, going back to the SK, there's probably a good opportunity to leave time on the table because you're being too careful or too ginger with it.
When you go back and you talk about that, it's basically your pedal work you're talking about. How about for traffic? Because how those cars handle the traffic are vastly different too. Because in the SK, it's a momentum car, so
Hmm.
you've got to try to make a pass while keeping your momentum up, which at some tracks can be on the higher end of difficulty. The modified, you have that power to drive up and maybe can actually outdrive somebody to pass them. So how do you approach passing different in those cars, between the two cars?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, still trying to do it clean, right? Not run anybody, 4 lanes up or anything like that. The tour modified gives you, I think, more flexibility in how you can pass, because it can be
Yes.
like predicated on getting a good run or getting a good launch off a corner, or it could be just like kind of diving it in and out braking someone, because with the grip that the tour modified has, you can get a lot more aggressive on your corner entry and still be able to get the drive off because you have the horsepower. It's not solely based on momentum. If you watch the tour modified or the tour type modified at a Thompson or a Stafford track like that, you'll see that it looks like it's a dive bomb, but it's sort of understood etiquette, I think, with the modified drivers in real life, that's how you have to make a pass. So you anticipate that happening a little bit differently. With the SK modified, you really can't dive it in there on someone. I mean, you've got to be able to
No.
get a great run and get there early enough that you can make the pass, and where you basically just take the preferred lane away. The dive bomb, 99% of the time, is going to lead to one or more cars spinning in the SK modified, because it's like if you're not there, it's far less likely, or it's much more difficult to anticipate that like the guy's going to be able to get in there with the SK modified, because the top end speed is just so low.
When you're on track, and do you have do you it kind of sounds like your preference between the two on track is the tour mod over the SK. Would that be correct?
Yeah, probably. I just think it's a more unique challenge. It presents a more unique challenge, and I think it favors guys that are maybe a little more skilled, a little more conscientious about tire wear, especially like long run in the race. I also think from a sort of a broadcast admin like league standpoint, I think the tour modified in a more like traditional track, or in a more conventional short track, not like the Loudon necessarily, or Phoenix, which we had never been to with this combo before up until this season. Um, I just think it puts a higher value on being a more well-rounded, sort of fully thought out driver, as opposed to the SK modified, where with the SK you're basically trying to go as fast as you can every single lap. The Stafford race that we had at the end of the season, that was another one that I had circled. I consider it my home track. It's where I grew up going to watch races there, and Thompson. Most of the guys that race in the league are New England guys from Connecticut or Massachusetts, and I think we all sort of view that track differently. It's a lot more special to us. So that was one where like I wanted to kind of put my stamp on the season. When I was able to pass Jeff for the lead early in that race, I just went as hard as I could, and I basically didn't stop for the entirety of that race. I was just trying to drive the wheels off the thing, and it really never bobbled. I never really had an issue. The tour modified, you can't do that. So I definitely think I prefer the tour mod. I think if I had my preference, we would run an balanced schedule between the tour and the SK modified. But the league was, when it started, was an SK modified league. That's really the kind of the root of it. So with the balance that we have now, like I said, I think it's a good balance for the league. It's a good balance for the drivers, and it allows us to stay true to what the league, kind of always was, which was the SK modified league.
Well, with the season over now, you guys won't pick back up now until after the first of the year, correct? If I'm not
January 22nd, yeah.
Yeah, January 20th. So between now and then, what do you guys do? I mean, what do you guys do? You guys just keep practicing to stay fresh in that, or do you come back a week before the season and knock the rust off? What do you do?
So we actually have some cool stuff planned. Ken organized like a turkey trot the week of Thanksgiving, the Monday of Thanksgiving, that VGN is actually going to broadcast. It's going to have drivers from both the Monday and Thursday league. We're doing 125 laps at Phoenix in the Tour Modified. I think that'll be super fun. But our typical off-season program is we usually take a week or two away, and then we'll run some recruiting races. Make sure that we're sort of constantly bringing in, new guys to the league, because people drop off, and we want to keep a car count, north of 20. I don't think we need 36 modifieds on track necessarily, but we have had seasons where, we like had 13, 14, 15 cars on a given night, and that doesn't make for a great broadcast. It doesn't make for great racing. And it does sometimes it doesn't even necessarily lead to more green flag racing, even with the lower car count. So we want to keep the car count high, make sure that we're keeping, the interest for everyone. This season, as we're finishing this season, normally we would sort of just roll right into the next season. But for a while, I've been advocating, and I think I finally won the arm wrestling match, that we get into a routine with sort of a spring season and a fall season, or January to April or May, and then basically September through Christmas, and kind of have the summer off and have a little bit of a break, because a lot of people, they've got kids, they go on vacation, people have other interests, so I think having the seasons kind of bookended like that, and more consistent will be good. But we'll run the recruiting races, and then usually the week before we kick off, we'll run just a league exclusive sort of icebreaker race almost. Introduce the new guys, to a full field of the red light cars, get everybody re-engaged, and then hit the ground running with the new season.
Do you guys as a team, there's team racing out there, granted it's all road course stuff. Do you guys ever, you and your teammates ever venture off and do that?
So every year Red Light will have a group that will do Daytona 24. Last year I did it with Ethan and Bill, as well as two other guys who run the Monday League, and we won our split. So that was really exciting.
Oh, wow.
Ethan made up these cool little license plates with our team name on it. So that was really awesome. I love the GT3 racing. I actually think that as I've done that more, it's helped my oval racing, because my footwork has improved a lot. At one point in time, I was in a GT3 league with a different group of guys, but I'm trying to get Patrick into it. Our other buddy Andy, actually, was one of Patrick's Air Force friends, Andy Lewis. He joined us this season as well, but he was only able to run a handful of races. He does some road racing, so we're trying to get a team together for Daytona, but I don't think Patrick's going to be at the license level by January to be able to do it. So that's sort of the big thing, road racing wise, is looking forward to Daytona. I'll do the Roar, I'll do the 24 hours, and then I'll try to do one or two other special events. I actually had plans to do Bathurst this past season, but it was right after they rolled rain out, and I knew that it was going to be rainy, and that just sounded terrible, so I skipped it. Hopefully iRacing can be a little more
Bathurst sounds terrible even on a good day.
Yeah, it's so hard. And I'm like, why would you do this to us? It's like they did, they spent all that time developing this new toy, and then they got to show it off. And I think honestly, it takes away from some of the fun of the long event. Our Daytona 24 was basically wet like the entire 24 hours. Um, I think we were the only GT3 car that finished on the lead lap. We beat the second place car by 10 laps because
Wow.
there was so much mayhem, and we were like literally the only ones who were able to avoid it. So hopefully they'll turn that down a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah,
in the
that
weeks.
rain is a great equalizer between the classes. I will tell you that.
Yeah, it's incredibly hard and frustrating and honestly not that fun. So if there's rain in the forecast, I'm probably gonna avoid those races. But I'll do a little bit of GT3 racing here in the off season. I'll try to do some truck and Xfinity racing just to kind of like stay sharp. And like I mentioned, I'm gonna dive headfirst back into the Monday League. And see if I can eventually make a run at the championship in that league. Although there's some incredibly talented guys in that league, and that's another one where like if I finish 10th, like 10th is a good night for me in that league.
And that, if I'm not mistaken, that league is also going to debut on the VGN airwaves when that starts
Yep.
out too. So that'll be
Yeah.
another, even though it's red light, but I mean it's going to be another night of racing on VGN, which will be really cool. So, and you guys do a great job on Thursday, so no reason to not think that won't carry over to Monday.
I think it'll be awesome. I expressed during my sort of victory chat with Soup, from a league admin perspective, how much we appreciate the relationship with VGN. I think the vision that you guys have had to put this all together and to see the growth even just in the last 12 months with the podcasts and the write-ups and the volume of races that you're broadcasting has been really great. I think it's a lot of fun to be a part of. It's clear that you guys love short track racing and we love short track racing. And so it's really, it's been a terrific partnership.
Yeah, it's I can tell you, being on both sides of the equation, driver and on occasion they let me on the air. So it's been fun to it's cool to follow the leagues and stuff like that too, and like you said, you got your family and whatnot watching and stuff like that. So I'm sure over time they've got guys, obviously probably you since your family member, that they root for, but I bet you there's guys they openly root against. So you're competitive. You see how you're laughing, so I know there must be some of that.
Yeah. Spot on.
But that's so cool. I mean, and it's okay. I mean, it's nothing, no disrespect to the guys that they root against, but that's cool. I mean, that's what the real world counterparts, heck, they sell a lot of t-shirts over that stuff,
Absolutely.
But it's cool how that kind of carries over and still brings people together. I'm still amazed on what this product does. And I makes me kind of cringe to think, I'm old. I remember Pong, and to remember and to see what we're doing now, man, I can't imagine what this whole thing is going to look like 10, 15 years down the road.
Yeah, I hope I'm still doing it. I was thinking about that coming into the interview because I think we chatted last time and I mentioned that like I'm a pretty avid golfer. Obviously that's something that you can do your whole life, but I was sort of I've thought like, is there going to be a moment where I just get tired of it or I don't feel like doing it any longer? And that hasn't happened yet. There's always sort of a new challenge or something else that you can get into that is really intriguing. Like for me, with the road racing, that's been something that I've tried to spend more time on in the last like year or so. So that's been something, and I love like, you learn, right? Like there's different etiquette and passing rules and, just the mechanism of like how a race goes off is very different than a NASCAR race or a short track oval race. So yeah, I think that's one of the great parts is that it's something you can do, really for as long as you want. And the off track stuff, I went to a race, one race actually each of the last 2 years with Brian Bianchi, who we race with. And I actually bought my truck from the dealership that Jeff Aho runs the service department, Toyota dealership up in New Hampshire. Yeah, so that was really cool, and actually was like kind of a reason that I felt comfortable getting the truck there, because I felt like I had a guy on the inside, and he was gonna make sure that everything was looked after. And so yeah, we text, AJ and I, like we talk almost daily. Even though he didn't race with us this season, we still chat, and we talk mostly, about things outside of iRacing. But we still talk about iRacing. We talk about his RC racing, but we talk about movies and shows, and real life stuff. Work related things, or family related things, and people really do become real friends. And I think that's
100%.
been a really neat thing about all this.
Well, the last thing I want to touch on, because as an older guy with, I got some gray too, said it earlier in about the beginning of every season. I always worry, am I going to win a race, or am I going to still be competitive? I keep waiting, and knock on wood, for a sign that, okay, I don't want to say getting too old, but are the reflexes getting a little slower? Am I getting a little slower? Yeah. And, what for you do you think the sign will be? Okay, not so much that you don't have it anymore, but okay, I'm not quite where I was 3 or 4 years ago. What do you think for you would be? I mean, and I'm not trying to be a downer on it, but I mean, it's fascinating.
It's a good question. I think it'll be less about results and more about racecraft. And am I making good decisions? Am I trying to do something silly, or putting myself or another driver in a bad position where maybe I wouldn't have done that? And maybe some of that will end up being, if I'm chasing another championship and I'm 2 points behind with only a couple of races to go, will I have the discipline to sort of adhere to the rules that I've set for myself for how I approach racing? I will say, I think it's probably just a matter of time before Luke Allen starts wiping the floor with all of us. He's already super competitive. I think he just turned 12, and he won Watkins Glen this season. He won. I think he won another, or he finished second at Bristol. He finished second or third at USA. He's had some really, really strong finishes. He's probably the guy, the guy. He's probably the other driver that I have my eye on the most in the future. That will be, the measuring stick of how good are you really? Because Luke, I think eventually will be the guy to beat.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's just the competitive. I can't get up front. I think that'll be the first. But we run two different disciplines. I'm on dirt, so we're sliding all over the place anyway, and bump into this stuff. And I mean, the racecraft. I mean, there is some racecraft. Oh, I guess I shouldn't undersell. There is some racecraft over there on that side of things. But yeah, I keep wondering. It's funny. Steven Spees, who's my teammate, we talk about that actually often. It's like, do we know? Because I mean, is it a stopwatch thing? Is it? I mean, like you said, I think it might just be a confluence of things. Okay, maybe not as competitive, and also seeing things on the track, maybe not correctly. You're misreading, making more mistakes, more mental mistakes than anything. So I think that's a really good point. So
it's those decisions. It's those decisions sort of in those, fraction of a second, where you make a read to make a pass or not make a pass, or you see an incident happening and you have to sort of predict which way is this car going to spin. I think it's the stuff like that. And, some of that's racecraft, some of that's racing strategically to keep yourself out of bad positions. And then, obviously, like we talked about, sometimes it's just not up to you. You're gonna wind up with someone in your lap, whether you like it or not.
You race long enough, that's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen, and
it's gonna happen over more than one time. So
yes, for sure.
Well, very cool. I thank you for coming back on the show here, and like I said, congratulations on your championship. Well deserved. Cannot wait to see what you do in that Scrambler series next year. I can't wait to watch that here on VGN. That's going to be really, really cool.
I agree with you.
So
I think it'll just be a great continuation of the partnership between Red Light and VGN, and being able to showcase a different type of racing, and you'll get to learn some new names, really talented guys. James Skelton, who won the championship this season, Max Therio, who has won I think I want to say two SK modified championships, as well as one or two red light championships. Zach Mitchell, Sean Single. There's a slew of Chris Hammett. There's a slew of characters that you'll get to meet that are all really talented, that I think you'll enjoy racing. Before we go, just to quickly touch on next season's schedule, so you guys have something to look forward to. I think Josh and I were going to do sort of a separate discussion solely on the schedule, but I think maybe since we're here, I can just touch on the first few weeks, because we've got some cool stuff planned. And hopefully I don't get in trouble with the other.
Cool.
The other
breaking news. We got to get Lowell to put a banner on the bottom of the screen here.
Yeah, cue the music. So we're going to open the season with sort of another high flying type tour modified race at Iowa.
I was thinking that the whole time. Open servers. The most fun I had in a tour mod was the race at Iowa. Man, that was a lot of fun there.
It's a blast.
Yes.
You still have to have some technique, and you have to manage your tires, but you can really rip it around. There's multiple lanes that you can race.
Yes.
We debated between going back to Phoenix and doing Iowa.
Iowa's way better.
Yeah, so I think that will be really fun. I've wanted to have this on the schedule probably for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 seasons now, and it just never worked out. So I finally put my foot down and demanded that we go. So I think that will be fantastic. Week 2, we go back to Langley for 150 laps. Week 3, we go to South Boston for a traditional 100 lapper. And then week 4, we're getting our road course out of the way, but it's sort of a nod to Daytona 24. We're going to run the tour modified at Daytona on the NASCAR road course. I know that probably sounds maniacal, but we tested it. It is actually really cool. With the turn 4 NASCAR chicane, it actually creates a good passing opportunity, and it breaks up those long straightaways. So I think that will be a really fun challenge for everyone. Excuse me. And then
real quick, you tested that. Yeah. I've got to ask this because since you just mentioned it. So bus stop. That's always, you can get yourself in trouble so easy there. What is the tour mod like going through that bus stop?
It's your ice skates on fire. It's going to be really tricky. I think the course layout itself is not terribly complicated. So guys that haven't run it before, I think will be able to pick up on it. And a lot of other guys have done Daytona 24, so there'll be some familiarity with the track. But the bus stop and the late chicane, I think those will really be the difference makers, between the top of the field and everybody else. One other race that I want to highlight that I'm really excited for is we're going to North Wilkesboro in the tour modified as well in the middle of the season. So I think that'll be really awesome. Nice. We'll do 100 laps there under the lights, and we've got the fresh redesign from iRacing to be able to go to. So I think that will be.
I got to run a late model racer the other day at BRL, and it's that the whole rescan is the track is completely different to drive. It was a lot of fun.
It is. It looks terrific. But I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. The tour modified was there earlier this season. I'm pretty certain they're going back next season. So it'll be great to kind of mimic the real world wherever we can. We've done that in the past as well, where we tried to sort of sync up dates on the schedule to the real life dates.
That's
so cool. So that's another one that I'm really excited about. And then we're going back to some classics. We're going back to Oswego. We're actually going back to Nashville Fairgrounds in the Tour Modified for the first time in a long time. Concord's back on the schedule. New Hampshire with the Tour Modified is back on the schedule. We're going to Richmond in the Tour Modified. Southern Nationals back on the schedule, and then we'll cap it off at Lanier with 150 lapper, so extended length there. Overall, I think it's a great schedule. It's got good balance. I think we have a good flow. And what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 really exciting Tour Modified races planned. So I think it'll make for another great season.
Well, great. I cannot wait to watch and do that. And I'm sure we'll bring you guys back to kind of preview both the Scrambler and your modified series. So I look forward to having those conversations with you guys. But that sounds like a great, man, that Iowa, circle that date. If you're in the league and they're talking about that, when that comes out, circle that date. That would be one I would not miss, because that car track combo is unbelievably fun.
Yeah, super fun.
Yep.
Great. Will be a great way to open the season.
Yep. So, well, again, like I said, I congratulate you on your championship, and and thank you for your time. But one other thing, we got to do a little housekeeping before we sign off here and talk about the things coming on VGN this coming week, and you can kind of help me preview these races a little bit. Tonight, the Tour Mods or the yesteryear 1966 Tour Mod Series is going to go to Martinsville. You being a modified guy, what do we expect at Martinsville out of the Tour Mods there? I've only run an SK there.
I don't know how many laps they're running, but my recollection with yesteryear is that they typically do more than 100 laps, so it's probably like 125 or 150. Tires will be key. If and when you pit, will be
how about
important.
passing? Because I think about the SKs there. Again, momentum, but with that extra power there, what do you think about passing? Do you think we'll see that second line there open up?
I don't know if you'll see the outside line be viable. It's just too much distance to travel to try to keep up. But I think with the length of those straightaways, if you get a decent run off of a corner, you can put yourself in position to be able to make a clean move to the guy in front of you and get to the inside and take that preferred lane. But again, it's all about tire management. I think the guys that will succeed there, obviously Tom Ogle has been competitive up at the front of the points for several seasons with that league. But although Brian was able to win the championship over him the one season, both those guys race really generally really smart. They know how to manage their tires, and so you probably if you anticipate a green flag race, you probably are going to sacrifice a little bit early on to be able to leap those guys later on as the tires get worn out.
Fair enough. Well, then Saturday we're going to move over and we're going to cover the BRL Invitational, Late Model Invitational Series, and Soup and Jeremy will be on that one. That is going to be coming to you from the Bull Ring out in Vegas, one of my most favorite tracks. Yeah, I love that track. A lot of fun there. I think that's a track that's that passing happens often, there. So that'll be a fun one to watch. And then we are going to have the OBRL Yesteryear Cup Series from Martinsville in their final cutoff race, where they're going to decide their final four to go race for a championship the following week at Phoenix. I will be on that call along with Zach Chapman there. And man, I tell you, I can't wait to get that one. Those guys put on great shows every week. So that'll be a barn burner, I'm sure. And then we'll be back next Tuesday right here at 9 o'clock. We'll release another VGN Weekly. I believe next week we'll be talking, kind of basically record keeping in some of these leagues and histories and stuff like that. So it'll be a lot of fun. For the full schedule and more, go to virtualgrip.net. I am John Hine this weekend, and I thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of VGN Weekly. Join us next time for race recaps, interviews, and much, much more. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. This has been a production of the Virtual Grip Network and the Skitter Creek Motorsports Group.